Okay, Titus, welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much for having me. Awesome to be here.
I have been wanting to chat with you for a while because you exist in a space that I know absolutely nothing about, and that
Yeah.
and that is online gaming.
Yeah, I'd say it's a little known space that also everybody knows about. So it's kind of weird.
I feel like everyone's gaming,
Yeah.
but no one knows how people make money from gaming.
Yep.
And then there's people like you who are entrepreneurial enough to like build your own league,
Yeah.
and I need to figure out like how this all works.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to do that. Happy to be here.
That's great. That's great. So, I guess we could start with like, where'd you grow up? Because,
Sure.
what was gaming a part of your life, in the early days?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Maryland, and gaming. I got introduced to gaming when I was like 4 years old. So we were playing Mortal Kombat with my dad on Sega Genesis, and that was like my first game, which it's not a very good first game for a 4-year-old, but
Yeah.
but that was like that introduction into this virtual world. And it was cool because even I think like the first time I remember playing was around 5 or 6 years old and being able to beat my dad in this virtual world, where
You mean like put him in his place?
exactly, yeah. So it's like I couldn't beat him anywhere else except this virtual world. And so we became equal in this world, and so I began to kind of fall in love with it at an early age, and really I've just enjoyed it ever since.
Okay, so you're taking me way back. Okay, I had game consoles, but I think I had a Sega Genesis. I had a Nintendo.
Okay.
I remember I was playing like FIFA Soccer, John Madden football,
Yeah.
um, Mortal Kombat, maybe a little bit, and then there was that one game, Contra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Contra was a good one for sure. Yeah.
It was. It had all the secret handshakes to get like extra men
Yeah.
and
It was like the first shooter, really, like
Yeah.
where it was, even though it was 2D, it was still this shooter vibe. So
Yeah.
it's cool. Yeah.
and then I graduated from that. So when I was at university, this would have been like late '90s. I remember the James Bond
007.
007,
Yeah.
like that shooter game.
Yep. GoldenEye was epic. Yeah.
It was epic. I mean, guys wouldn't sleep. Guys would
Yeah.
be playing that like day and night for weeks. It was crazy. I feel like that like predated Call of Duty, right?
Yeah. That was like the first big like viral game.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember that. Okay, so you kind of caught on to gaming in the early days because it allowed you to compete with adults as a child.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was my way of being equal with them,
Yeah.
and so I was able to spend a lot of time with adults and keep up with them, if you will.
Mhm.
Whereas I couldn't do that anywhere else in sports or in life, academics, nothing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Were you involved in sports when you were a kid?
Yeah. I played basketball a lot. I played football. I was just talented pretty much no matter where I was athletically. I never really felt at home athletically though. So
Yeah. It's funny, like I got caught up in sports and then I just stopped gaming for like 14 years
Yeah.
and then came back to it a little bit in my 20s, but haven't really kind of followed along with how the industry is really developing, and it's interesting to see how you've created this space for yourself. I mean, what was it like growing up in Maryland, like as a kid?
It was pretty boring. I think there was a lot of like because there wasn't a whole lot to do. A lot of my friends or people around me kind of got into like the drugs and stuff like that. But I was because I got into sports pretty heavy. I ended up playing for a private school, got a scholarship at a private school, played there. Was planning on playing in college, and ended up not working out. I ended up quitting because I ended up dropping out of school. So it was like it just didn't work out for me with the basketball thing. But I was more into business anyways, and so that kind of started me on the business side.
On the entrepreneurial trail.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exciting. I mean, it's amazing. Like obviously sports are wonderful.
Yeah.
But it can be really like a false hope if you're not good enough to make a living from it. Like you're dedicating I know it's like you should always try to do your best, but at some stage you're not going to be a professional, and I think that's the time to cut the cord.
Yeah, it's funny. I can liken sports to gaming in a way that I think like most people don't recognize. Like sports are just games, right? But they're in a real world game, right? And so they've been widely accepted by the population. But if you spend 8 hours doing it and you're never going to do anything with life, you're wasting a lot of your life. Same in gaming, right? So there are a lot of similarities. Both of them are games. One's in a virtual world, one is in the real world. And so finding ways to kind of, you can find competition in gaming the same way you do. You can kind of get that competitive edge or that feeling that as a competitive person, you can have a lot of fun time and a lot of good times just going out and playing sports or playing video games the same. And a lot of people don't see them the same right now because sports are kind of elevated because they've been around for so long. But at one point in time, there were people that were saying, what are you doing with that basketball? You're wasting your life, playing that game, right? Whereas with gaming, they're still kind of saying that. It's starting to change a little bit, the narrative around it. But for a long time, that was still the narrative.
The thing that confuses me the most about the gaming world, and maybe you can shed some light on this too, it's not exactly what you do, but Twitch. Like, the website, I think it's called Twitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like where people just spend hours watching other people play games.
Yeah.
Like this boggles my mind. It's like, because you're sitting there, you're watching someone else play, but like, why don't you just play?
Yeah.
And it's.
I was talking about this literally today.
Yeah.
I have a thing. So I've been in gaming now for 5 years. I've been doing the league, and I've realized that a majority of gamers actually don't get on Twitch. Like that's not their thing. Twitch is like seen as this behemoth because they have Amazon behind them. But realistically, Twitch only has about 2 million concurrent viewers at any given time, right? Which you'd think is a lot. I won't get into the numbers and the bots and all that stuff. But what I'll say is Twitch, of those 2 million viewers concurrently, you have to think there are 3 billion gamers in the world, right?
Are there?
Yes, 3 billion. So 2 out of 3 households are gamers.
But that's not like having a game console at home, because people play games on their phones and stuff.
Right.
So
mobile, phone, PC, you name it, they're gaming, right? That's gamers, right? So what a lot of people think of, the point is a lot of people think of gamers and they think, oh, Twitch, that's gamers. But realistically, it's kind of a niche of gamers. It's not actually the major population of gamers, because of the population, there's 33 million people total on Twitch, like signed up with an account, right? Mm-hmm. And again, 3 billion. So they're not even really capturing 1% of gamers. So I'd say Twitch is like a niche. It's really why we don't focus as a business. We don't really focus on Twitch. We focus on more YouTube. Twitch it has a large enough audience to start there. But I think if you really want to grow as an organization, you need to really pivot and be more focused on things like, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, where the majority of people are.
Yeah. YouTube's amazing actually these days. I mean, they're paying out a lot back to the creators and things like that. It's really developed into something quite special. Yeah. And it's become a good place for gamers as well.
Not yet. So I'd say, like, because of the mentality that Twitch is where you have to be, most gamers automatically kind of go to Twitch, which, again, even though it's like that's where they feel they have to be. Although if you look at YouTube holistically, they have more viewership on gaming clips, although it's not live gaming, right? So it's a different thing altogether. Like, I'm more likely, and I find that there's a majority of even the gamers in my community are like this. We're more likely to watch gaming clips than we are to watch someone play a video game for 8 hours. Like, that's not realistic. And so it's, the point you're making, I think a lot of people think that way. They think all gamers are on Twitch, when realistically they're not. A majority of them are not on Twitch. It's like 99% of them are not on Twitch.
And so you're telling me, like, people are playing games and recording what's going on their screen and clipping it and putting it on YouTube so that other people can follow their progress or figure out how to do some special move in some
learn
special
how to play.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. There's storyline behind it. Like there's a lot of creators now that are creating movies in a video game. So they're doing the voiceovers and they're like putting together clips and creating the scenes and doing it all in that digital world, and then getting tons of viewers around it because people are just interested in the story, watching the story play out. Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's talk a little bit about what you've done, and then we'll backtrack and get back a little bit. So, I mean, you liked gaming so much, you created your own league.
Yeah.
And what is a gaming league?
Yeah. So I kind of have to go back a little bit. Historically, a gaming league is simply a community of gamers that come together and play a specific video game. So it was like back in the 70s, I think, was the first gaming league on Atari. They did it at a college. But essentially it was just a marketing scheme. So they were coming together to play this game to promote it to this college that they were doing it for. That stayed the way. Gaming hasn't evolved since then. The games have, but gaming and gaming competition and leagues haven't. They still follow that same structure. It's a single game, and you compete in that single game and promote it and do all that stuff, and then you have this big competition and people get paid.
The getting paid part is, we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
I really want to understand how people make money on this.
Yeah. So the problem that I saw, so I came from real estate, and I did real estate development. I did that for 8 years. Essentially, we would go into find a plot of land, we would develop it into a community, and I did small communities. I did a 10-home community. I've done a 2,000-home community. So I've really done it all.
Remember that game Sim where you create the world?
Yeah.
I remember playing that. I like that a lot.
Tycoon, any of those. So and I used to love those games. And so that was what it was like in real life. You know, you're finding this land, you get it at a good deal, you find the contractors, you put it all together, and now you have, you get the loan. You help the person get the loan, and now they have the house.
Well, that sounds like a good career.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wasn't fulfilling for me, but I was the best at it in that industry, in the company I was at, making more money than I could than I ever would have thought I would have.
Right.
Especially due to my previous, dropping out of school and stuff like that. Like, you wouldn't have thought. But anyways,
school just holds people back.
Yeah, for instance, I'd say it's good. It just depends on what you're there for, right? But anyways, I think that's everything in moderation. So
the amount of people who have come through this desk, who have dropped out of school and become very successful, is unbelievable.
I actually believe that. No. I believe that, especially if your reason for dropping out is sound too, right?
Yeah. Making money. The longer you stay in education, the less money you make.
Yeah.
Unless you're going into coding or computer sciences, because then I think someone's going to hire you, or you'll create something, right? But for the rest of us, non-technical people, I think the faster you get at a higher education and start working, the more you learn.
Yeah, and sometimes in tech too. I mean, now on YouTube, you can pretty much find anything you need as far as tech goes, and you can build a computer and put together programs. And yeah. So anyways, getting out of real estate, I jumped into the esports world, or the video game world, and recognized that the single game problem, or the problem they didn't know they had at the time, because this was 5 years ago. At the time, I recognized that they were building these communities off of intellectual property that was someone else's, right? So the Call of Duty is an example, okay? So if I do a Call of Duty tournament and I create this community and I sell these tickets to this event, and I do all the work, I do all the marketing, I put it all together, who actually owns the community? Is it me, or is it the person that actually created the game?
That's a good question.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's an easy answer, okay? If it was music and I was selling someone else's music and their art and taking it and creating this community and then selling it and profiting off of it, whose would it be?
Well, you'd have to pay royalties.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And who decides the royalties?
They would, not you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the problem that I saw immediately coming out. I'm like, man, this would be like me creating a community on land I don't own, right? If I don't own the land, I don't own the community, period. So I have to first buy the land. And so I looked at it from that lens, and I said, okay, there's got to be somebody that's fixing this problem. There has to be.
But there was no one.
There was nobody. So I start researching and find there's nobody. So I'm like, okay, how do we do it? We have to do it ourselves then. And so we started to come up with a style of gaming that didn't have to focus on a single game and instead focused on gaming, right, as a whole. So we created this system that, similar to the UFC, it takes all 5 competitive genres of gaming. So you have fighting games, sports games, shooting games, racing games, and strategy games. That's all of gaming.
Like Mario Kart?
Yeah, like really any game that covers any game, period.
Yeah.
Then we combined them to create almost this like UFC approach of who's the best gamer as a whole.
Across all disciplines.
Across all disciplines, right? So now when we're building this community, it doesn't depend on any game, because at any point I can take out this game and put in another game. So, you as a developer, you don't control me anymore. Now, if you say, you can't play my game, okay, there's 50,000 games developed last year alone. I'll just pick one of them.
I mean, what's the relationship like with the developers?
It's great, because the flip side of it is I have 32 other games. I have 33 games on the wheel, right? Every season we create a list of 33 games that are played. They go on a roulette wheel. It spins, lands on a game. They play that game, and that's 1 point. And that happens over and over until the 4 hours is done, and then the person with the most points wins. That's how it's done. So, but there's 32 other communities that are coming into this community that are going to now be able to participate in your game too. So whereas now, if you wanted to market, let's say you're Call of Duty and you want to market to Madden, how do you do that? If they're playing Madden, how do you get them to cross over? It's difficult. There's no like number right now. The cost of acquisition for a small company is $478 for one person. For a large company like Call of Duty, it's $78. Both are unsustainable. So they have to have communities playing their game in order to get people to continue to play. So we built a community that will play anything.
How do you build a community?
Very, very strategically. Like I said, I came from building communities, and that was all strategy. You have to place everything perfectly. You have to market it a certain way. You have to price it a certain way. You have to, when people come in, they have to feel something in order to stay, right? You have to tell that story to get them to believe in what you're doing. And so what started season 1, we had 14 people that showed up.
And there's a physical location, like in Los Angeles?
No, it's in Virginia. Okay. Yeah. We have an arena out of Virginia now.
An arena?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, it started as 14 people. We're on our 8th season now. Now we're over 100,000 gamers, and then
100,000 people are contributing and competing in a community that you built. Well, that's no joke.
Yeah, and it's much more now, but 100,000 is the last time we counted. So yeah,
that's incredible. So in 5 years, you've built out a community of 100,000 gamers playing 30 plus games that cover the major disciplines, and at the end of a year or at the end of a season, someone is crowned champion?
Yep. And then every 6 months, we do another season and we do a new wheel. So that means 33 new games.
But the same genre distinctions?
Yeah. Well, all games fall under those genres, so yeah.
Okay. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are the genres again?
Fighting games, sports games, shooting games, racing games, and strategy games.
I'm terrible at strategy games. The shooting ones are fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, like, we found that the games you like are based on the skills you already have and you already demonstrate. So if you are a strategic person with a strategic personality, you're going to gravitate to strategy games, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas if you are more about like patterns, or like a stock trader is going to love fighting games, because it's all pattern recognition. It's all like button mapping and understanding the opponent, what they're going to do, and watching the lines and trends and all that stuff that happens in stocks. It's all happening in fighting games too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you monitor? How do all these people play against each other? They do it virtually, right?
No, in person at the arena. So we have people that fly out from, farthest we have is California. So people fly out from here to there to compete. And this season they're playing for $100,000. Next season it will be, we haven't announced next season yet, but it's gonna be big.
Okay. So I'm a gamer.
Yep.
Okay. I want to join your community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. does it cost anything?
No.
Okay, so it's free.
Yes.
Okay, so then I have to go to Virginia.
Yep. So you would join you register for free.
This is, by the way, the Idiots 101.
Yeah.
To gaming communities. Sorry about that, but
so you register for free. Then you, once you register, you get put into this draft pool. So there's a draft every season, like the NBA draft, NFL draft. Same thing. So the teams, all of the teams that we have that are owned by investors that bought into the league, they then draft players from that draft pool based on the skills that they need for their team. So if they need fighting game skills or shooting game skills to map their team out and make it better fit, like to make it a better all-around team, then they draft those players.
So when I sign up to be part of your league, I have to also declare which games I'm good at and which games I'm not good at.
Which games you play. Yep.
And is there some kind of like standardized testing? Like
yes. That we created. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's so you created the bar that everyone has to pass.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And essentially you can, we're testing the skills, not the games. So we're testing pattern recognition because that we know that translates to fighting games. We're testing precision because we know that translates to racing games. We're testing hand-eye coordination because we know that translates to shooting games. So we test the skills in the virtual environment so that we know where you're going to fit. And we used to test in the games, but we found that this system actually works better. We've been more accurate on how good a person's going to be in a game just based on doing it this way.
Right, because I guess like if you don't create your own benchmark that everyone has to attain or pass, then you basically have to rely on everyone telling you what they can do or how many points they get into some certain game, and then there's really no way to verify it.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. So so again, I want to join your community. It's free.
Yep.
But when I join your community, I have to go through a round of virtual testing.
Yes.
And that virtual testing will tell the team captains who are owned by companies.
Yes. Companies, investors.
And so then I will get drafted by one of those teams. So a community of 100,000. So how many teams do you have?
12.
Okay, so that's a lot of players on each team.
No, there's 18 players on each team.
What happens to the players that aren't drafted?
They just hope to get drafted next time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's like really competitive.
Yes.
Because I was kind of imagining like everyone gets to start at the beginning at least and play.
No, so that's the goal, right? So right now we're trying to create a G League or like the under league that'll be all online, and then we have an invitational that we just created that is strictly the skills. Like you test your skills over and over and over, and then that helps you get a better chance at getting drafted. Because if you have the highest skills, then you're going to get picked up by the teams.
So 18 players per team.
Yep.
And do these players get a salary?
So that's a great. When does this come out?
This will come out in mid-May.
Oh, okay. So we're good. So
tell me all your secrets.
So yeah. So next season we're doing it for $1 million.
$1 million.
$1 million.
And that's the prize to the winning team.
So that'll be so essentially what it's going to be is there'll be a salary. The cost per, so what we're doing is taking $1 million and we're splitting it up for the teams and the players. So the players will be on salary. The lowest salary will be about $400 a game, which comes out to about $1,600 a month. The highest salary is $100,000 a year. So they're making like 80,000 something a game.
A game?
No, sorry, 2,500 a game, which comes out to 100,000 a year.
But that's so there's going to be people who get drafted by these teams, and they can have a six-figure salary.
Yes.
To be a gamer.
Yes.
And that's one season, which is only 6 months.
Yeah, it's yearly 100,000, so it's 50,000 every 6 months. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. This is all sponsorship money, and
no. We'll get to that. All right, I'm waiting on you. I'm following your lead.
I'm trying to catch up to where you are, but no, this is astonishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so then we get drafted. Okay, you're gonna have salaries. Obviously, there's probably some prize money.
At the end, it's $25,000 that we're doing, so it's not a whole lot, but yeah.
But just offering those salaries is going to make those 18 positions are so competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because everyone wants to be paid for their time.
Oh yeah.
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 Okay, so if you don't get drafted by a team,
Yep.
you get thrown down and you got to try again next season.
Yep.
If you do get drafted, you're going to get some kind of salary.
Yep.
And then you have to play a certain amount of games every month, and you have to play those games
in person
in your arena.
Mm-hmm.
Do you pay for travel expenses?
It depends on the team owner. So we have a team owner that owns a hedge fund, and he does like $40 billion in that he manages.
Oh, so he's flying guys around in his fucking private jet.
Exactly. So then we have team owners that don't, that were some of the original team owners that bought in when the teams were $6,000 at the time. So it just depends on who you're with.
And each team will have its own rules and its own regulations and everything like that.
They're all the players are under contract. After they get drafted, they get a rookie contract.
Is there drug testing?
No, not yet, but eventually.
Because I think there's some drugs you can take that'll make you more focused.
Yeah.
Video games, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Someone was telling me that. Like, what's the one that kids take now?
Adderall.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
If you're just juiced up on Adderall.
I don't know if you can test for Adderall though. I don't
No?
think you can. I don't think it pops, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Because I mean, when you start talking about money, obviously you're going to start talking about performance enhancement.
Yep. Yeah. So you got to figure that out, which we will. But
Okay, so all the games have to be played in Virginia at your arena.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I guess also too, you're selling tickets and people are going to watch.
For certain games. So for the playoffs and the finals, yes. So we're going to the DeVos Theater in Michigan. For the finals this season, we're selling tickets for that. But otherwise, people come in to watch, but it's normally just family and friends and stuff like that.
Okay. And again, like, are these games streamed like live?
Yes.
Which platform?
There's 8 different platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of it. Yeah, Twitter, Twitch. Yeah.
So people can just sit back at home and watch.
Yep.
For one of the teams that maybe they didn't get a chance to make.
Yeah, and a lot of the players, the people that didn't make the team, will watch to be able to see what they need to get better at, what they need to play. You know what I mean? The games that they can do better than that other person, and so that they can get on a practice squad, hopefully, that type of stuff. So
or your junior league.
Yeah.
Okay, now how do you make money?
All right, so the best question ever.
Yeah.
Okay, so sponsorship money is I'm glad you asked. Every esports organization relied so heavily on that, and that was one of the things that in the beginning, I saw that as a big problem. When that money dries up, your league is dead, right? Yeah. So you have 2 problems with that. Either the game takes away your league because they don't want to play anymore. They're like, oh, we'll do it ourselves. Or the sponsorship money dries up or investor money dries up, and then you're dead in the water, right? So in building this community, I'll put it to you like this. If I have a community of 100,000 gamers, okay, and I know 58% of them will buy the game that I announce the second I announce it in the first week, what would you pay for that?
Yeah, a lot. Okay. That's great. That's great targeted marketing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Extremely targeted and guaranteed marketing.
Okay, so the 32 games across 5 disciplines that
33,
you have,
yeah.
33 games that you have across 5 disciplines that you launch every 6 months, which is 1 season. Every season you change games.
Yep.
So you can get that sponsorship, not that sponsorship money, but you'll get money from the companies that make those games.
Mm-hmm. We're a marketing company for games. That
by having a competition and a community.
Yep.
Okay. That's pretty amazing. That's and you're the first to do, like,
the only.
Because like I've seen I lived in Asia for a long time, and gaming is huge in Asia, right? And I lived in China, and I remember seeing like all these crazy gaming communities. I think they were sporting games though, but South Korea, right? Like
all over,
crazy gaming community. And I remember seeing them, and then there were all these kids in China that were like playing for South Korean players to help them get up to a certain level before the South Korean guy would come in and finish it or something. Like there's a whole like farming.
Sounds like you're talking about StarCraft, but okay.
Yeah, maybe like they were farming out all the work to people in China so that the South Koreans didn't have to do all like the legwork at the beginning. Like this is so it's it's so confusing.
Yeah. Well, that is confusing, and that was the reason I didn't get into that side of it, because I just felt that money. I don't like confusing things. Like,
I don't like confusing things either, man. It's tough.
if I'm trying to build a business and make money, I don't want it to be confusing. It shouldn't be confusing to anybody. This is quite simple stuff. Like, I'll market your game. How much is it worth to you, right?
Yeah, because 50x% of the 100,000 people that are part of your community will download the game or buy it because they need to get their skills up because they want to be part of the teams this year or next year. So it's a guaranteed purchase almost.
Mm-hmm.
Are you like a master gamer, or are you just like a really smart businessman?
I guess a little bit of both. I'm good at video games.
Do you have your own team?
No.
It's a conflict of interest.
Yeah,
okay.
The first season I had one, we won a championship, and then I retired.
on top, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I'm very good at video games, and I always felt that there were more people like me. So when we first started the company, I went to the University of Mary Washington Business School and asked them to do some research, and they found that the average gamer played 24 games a year. So I was looking at that thinking, okay, is there anything that does more than one game? Because if I'm going to create something, I'd rather it be to a larger audience rather than kind of pigeonholing myself into this one audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's super smart that you built a league that's not dependent on one game,
right?
And taking the control back from the game creators,
yep.
and focusing on making sure the community is sustained, even if a gamer decides not to discontinue a game,
yep.
or to try to block you from playing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we've had it happen, and we're just okay. And then there's 100 games that are just like yours. Period.
Are there though?
Yes, there were 50,000 games developed last year.
Okay, but hold on.
1 year.
Okay, well, hold on. Like, let's say, like FIFA soccer.
100 of them. If I went on Steam right now, there are. I've actually looked it up. If you type in soccer, there's 1,000 results.
What's Steam?
It's basically where you buy games. It's like where you buy them online.
Okay, so
because where the developers upload them.
Okay, because like I'm of the GameStop generation.
Yeah. So like think of Steam as GameStop. Meanwhile, like there's a bunch of other versions of GameStop all over. So Steam's just one platform.
Yeah.
And if I type in soccer, I'm gonna get 1,000+ results, right?
Yeah. And are all those games as good as FIFA soccer?
That's a good question. And I'll ask it with this way.
Yeah.
Does that matter?
No, I mean, I guess I'm sure there's better games than FIFA soccer. You just don't know, right? Yeah,
right?
Just don't know the marketing.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Right. So but the realistically, it doesn't matter. Like if they're gonna have the same mechanics, and it's kind of doing the same thing, and from a viewership perspective, from a player perspective, they're still getting paid, right? And it's still enjoyable to watch. It's really all that matters. It's gaming. So you kind of take away that shroud of like Louis Vuitton. You know what I mean? Like that name doesn't matter anymore when it's just gaming. We're watching them in a gaming environment demonstrate these skills across all games, right?
It's really genius actually that you turned your community into focusing on skills of gaming and not a specific game.
We did that like a year and a half ago.
So you made some mistakes at the beginning and have learned from them.
Well, no, it's more like the gaming community wouldn't pay attention if I started with the full vision, right? Because they see things a certain way. So I had to like kind of start to convince them of certain things little by little. So when I started, I was doing individual tournaments like everybody else. But every tournament I would say, hey, at the end, we're going to do this thing. It's a cool thing we created. Like at the finals is what I called it. And so and they would come there for the thing they're used to. And then I would sell them on the thing that I'm trying to pitch them. And that was how the community started. And then it built and built and built. And so like after those 14 came, they went and got a couple friends that came to the next one. And there was 28. And then there was 50. And then there was 100. And then 500. And so it was like, but you couldn't just give them the whole thing right then. Because if you started talking about skills then, they would be like, what are you talking about? Like, but now when I say end gamer now, that's like a word, it's a term that everyone in my community uses like it's a real word. But we own that word. We created that word. So an end gamer is not actually a thing that exists outside of our organization. But in our organization, you know it as the master of gaming. So if you are an end gamer, you are the master of gaming. If you are And if you're in gaming, then you're mastering gaming, right? So they use it in different terms all the time that originally they wouldn't have really seen that. So we had to like kind of curve it. We still called it Ultimate In-Gamers League, but it wasn't, we didn't have the same approach. I know in building a community, when I was in real estate, they had this big map. You'd walk in and they'd have the map of the whole community, everything that's going to happen from start to finish. So you got the pool over here and all these houses, right? The person would walk in and say, I want that one, all the way at the end of the project, right? So they're here now, and we're over here in this little bubble right here, but they want this one all the way at the end of the project. So it was then that I realized, okay, I'm going to cut all that out. My community map is going to be this big, and it's just going to be blown up to where this big looks huge, even though it's really such a small portion of what I'm actually going to do, right? I did the same thing in gaming. You cut all that other stuff out because they're not going to get it. They need to get this little bit, and this little bit needs to look huge. And then we slowly start to grow it out to where it's going to be now.
Wow. What is the average age of your gamers that get drafted onto teams?
That's a great question. Our demographic...
I just want to know if it's too late for me.
Our demographic is actually 25 to 40.
Okay, it's too late for me, but I'm almost there. I could sneak back in.
Our oldest player is 45, I think, or 46.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think he's 46.
Okay.
Sorry, Pop, if you're younger than that, but I think I want to say he said he was like 46.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so let me get this straight. So so you have 100,000 people competing for 18 spots on how many teams again?
12.
12 teams. 18 spots, 100,000 people. Okay, so then you have a draft day. The teams pick their players.
Yep.
Okay, now over that 6-month period, once those teams are solidified, can teams trade for other players?
Yep. There's trades. They trade draft picks, just like a regular league. So all season long, chaos is.
And whoever finishes last gets the first draft pick the next season?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you got some NBA stuff going on.
Yeah. I studied all sports leagues when creating this one.
This is incredible. This is kind of ingenious. I'm very impressed. Like, I mean, I saw what you had built and I checked out your website and learned a little bit about you, but hearing it, from you is impressive. It's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So, okay. So then at the end of the season, one of the teams will win.
Yep.
They'll get a prize.
Yep.
And then how long before the next season starts?
It is a month, maybe.
And then during that month, do you allow new teams to be introduced? Like if you have more hedge fund guys, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we do an expansion. So we'll have a combine. We have like a free agency combine for those that made it to the draft but didn't necessarily make a team. Then we have a regular combine, and then we have our draft. And then if we do an expansion, the thing is, we don't always expand because for me as a business decision, it doesn't always make sense to expand. Like even if you're going to give me $1 million today, I know I can get 10 from you tomorrow. So it doesn't make sense for me to just rush into expanding if the community's still engaged.
What's the optimum number of teams that you think you can manage and still keep the community engaged? Because if there's like 100 teams, it would kind of lose.
Yeah.
It would be hard to follow, right?
I want 52 teams.
52 teams.
Yeah.
Why 52?
We're probably about 21 for every state, and then like also Hawaii and yeah. So, I've always said that since the beginning. I want 52 teams, and so each team represents a different state now, as it is, and so we're pretty much all on the East Coast. We have one in LA now. Because it's gaming, it's actually not that difficult to follow your team, and that's the goal. Like to have people that grow up in it that then end up following their team. That's really what football is. That's what basketball is. Like if you're watching football, most likely your parents watched football or somebody introduced you to it that you love, and you watch it because it's like a memory, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why they're so afraid right now with football and basketball. All these sports are getting big deals with Nickelodeon, Disney Channel and doing slime and all that, because it's a generational thing. But eventually, like that kind of cuts off the popularity of it all if you don't continue to grow and change and develop it. Then it'll just kind of die off. So I want to get us to that point where people are following it because someone that they love introduced them to it. Now we're, a decade or more from that, but that's where I want to be. And so
it happened with time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a long game for me for sure. But 52 teams I think will be still easy to follow. And then I want to have, so we're actually working on a team in Africa to have like almost like an Olympic one as well at the end. So you have your US based, but they're doing theirs at the same time over there, and then they all come together and have a competition.
Oh, so creating multiple leagues on multiple continents, and then having like like a Champions League.
Yep. So we're working in Europe. We're right now we're looking at Europe, India, and Africa.
Is gaming big in India?
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I know it's a big like IT outsourcing part of the world, but I don't know if like people are actually actively gaming there.
Yeah, it's huge. It's just the cost. So like for every customer you get there, it's like a tenth of the value of what you would get for that same customer in the US. And that's normally spoken from an ad sense. Like advertisers look for US based viewers
because we spend
more money, right? So so I don't look at it the same way because I know like over there they'll buy the games the same as they will over here, and so that's why the program that I'm creating actually can work over there too, and that's why I'm not afraid to kind of expand over there, whereas other people would be, because you're not going to get the same advertising dollars, and advertising dollars are how your whole business is based on that.
Yeah,
advertising and sponsorship.
Yeah.
So, whereas for me, it's less than 5% of my business.
Okay, so back to another question. So at the beginning of each season, you pick 33 games to for all these teams to compete against each other with.
Mm-hmm.
How do you decide which of those games you take? Is it 100% based on the monetary value of that game from the companies that make the games, and that's what they're going to give you to market it, or is it because you feel that game represents the skill level that you want to have these teams compete to figure out like what kind of ratio is it between just a pure cash value and a skill value, I suppose?
It's a great question. So
because I would just take the money and run.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. We're building a community still, so the pool has to be a nice pool in order for people to want to swim in it, right? So what we do is it's kind of a process. We start with a survey that we send to the developers. The developers fill it out. It has the information about their game. Then we go through it as a team. And
how many people are working for you at the moment?
About 80.
80?
Yeah.
And you're here with me while 80 people are out there carrying this stuff on?
I got a message from my chief marketing officer. Shout out to always. But he was like, "Where are you?" Because I kind of just like dipped out. They're handling. They got it. They're good.
But 80 people. This is, I mean, like that's a lot of people to be managing.
Yeah. It is. I have a really good chief operating officer. 300. He goes by 300. And
his name is 300?
His name's Anthony, but yeah, you got to call him 300.
Like the movie 300?
Yeah.
Yes, but like Spartans?
Yeah. We all go by gamer tags, except me. I go by Titus.
Okay.
But he's the best organizer in the world. He ran a security company that got to like $10 million in revenue before doing this. And he can organize anything. So really, he runs the company, and I promote the company, and it works really well that way. So
yeah, I think like the CEO needs to be the chief marketing officer.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, right? Especially if the personality fits.
Yeah,
and then you let other people run the day to day, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how it's working. But to the question, so
yeah, back to the monetary value versus the skill value, and what you need to build out your community.
Yeah, so we survey, then we start going through the games, and we look at factors like how easy is it to set up, how often are they updating the game, how complex is the game, because we do like a complex game.
So hold on, the games are updated within the season, so you'll get just like software on your computer, like every month or two you'll have to download some important software update.
Exactly.
And will that shouldn't change the actual parameters of the game.
No, it doesn't. Sometimes it can get in the way. Like there's sometimes that they'll have an update like while we're in a match, and so we just won't play that game. We'll go to the next one. So it doesn't impact us any, but if you're a tournament that focuses on only that game, that ruins your whole day. Like, it's over now.
Yeah, the whole not being a one game wonder is the key to your whole business.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So we look at a lot of different parameters, and then we say, okay, can the community play this for the next 6 months? Like, realistically, can they play it and enjoy it for the next 6 months? Because we want that. We don't want it to be a season where they're going to be just like hating life. And a lot of times we introduce games and they hate it. They hate it.
And you loved it.
And we love it. But then by the end of the season, they love it too. Because gaming, I found, it's all just different skills. So if you have those same skills, you may not be used to it at first, but over time, you're going to recognize, oh, yeah, I love this. This is actually fun. And then when that game leaves, now everybody's upset. When they were upset that it came, now they're upset that it's gone. So that's kind of the way we've gotten used to it.
And do you play all the games?
I do. Yeah. I test every game we add on there. I test out. I normally can like play it for like 10 minutes and know a good like set of strategies to where I could beat you.
And so now I guess every single game making company in the world knows you.
No, I would say a very small portion of I would say 10% of the market knows us.
And that's where you pull your 33 games every season from
the 10% that know. But then we do a lot of like outreach too. So we were just in San Francisco at the Game Developer Conference. They have like 8,000 different people there that are all developing games and stuff like that. So we're interviewing games there and seeing, okay, does this game fit? Does it not fit? Because they get like I said, along with us marketing their game, they get 32 other developers marketing their game. Because if your game's in $1 million tournament, one of the biggest in the US, then you're going to market too, right? Like, so you're not going to not talk about it. Of course, you're going to say, I'm a part of $1 million tournament, right?
That's a huge marketing point. Like the fact that their game made the cut and that made it into your stable of 33.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's funny though. When I first started doing this, I had this same business plan, but for the wrong thing. So this same exact business plan used to exist for venues, like because it could work for venues too, but for like, let's say you have an arcade somewhere, right? And I'm doing a $100,000 tournament or $1 million tournament, and I say, if you host tryouts at your venue, then you can advertise my tournament at your venue, right? And so that was my original thought. I had that business plan from the very beginning of creating this company until I started meeting developers and learning, holy crap, like they actually are the venues. Like they're having a really hard time getting people to play their game. Like I said, it costs them $478 to get one person to play. If they're a smaller studio, $478 to get one person to play.
Yeah, I mean, what about like, what's the company that makes, what's it called? Like Riot Games? Isn't that one of the biggest ones? Didn't Microsoft just try to buy them for like $80 billion or something?
Probably.
Right.
Probably. But Riot still spends $78.
Just
per person.
Per person. And the goal is that once you have them for life.
Hopefully have them for life. Yeah. You hopefully get them into your ecosystem to where they keep playing. But
it's like the pharmaceutical industry.
Right. Right. But there's no guarantee there, whereas pharmaceutical there is. Like they're hooked.
Yeah.
Here there's no guarantee that they're hooked, so they still have to keep spending that money over and over. It costs me about $2 to $3 to get a new customer.
And when this is mind blowing today. I love this. Okay, so everyone's in Virginia. How does one team of 18 players play against another team of 18 players? Like, are all 18 players competing just with one other player from the other team, but both teams are competing on that one day? Like, because I've seen crazy stuff from South Korea where there's like 50 players all playing at the same time, and you don't even know like who's playing who and what's going on. It's very confusing.
Yeah, no. So okay, we'll break it down like this. There are only 7 starters that play of the 18.
You have starters, bench players.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay. So there are 7 starters, and the teams are built to be the best across all games, right? So you're going to have people that specialize in a fighting game, sports game, shooting game, and then you have some that can play everything. We have players that can legitimately play every single game to the max. Like they will beat you in every single game. So you have those, essentially you have the teams that are playing against each other, and the one team on one side against the other team, they have the 7 players. wheel spins, it lands on a game. Let's say it's Call of Duty. Call of Duty is a 2 versus 2. So the coaches are going to pick 2 of the 7 to go into that game and play the other team, but they don't know who they're going to pick for their 2. They both find out who they picked at the same time. So they send it into a system that we have. Then at the same time, it gets announced who was put in for what. So if you have a team and you were like, oh, I think I can beat them in Call of Duty, so I'm going to send my 2 best players. And then I have a team and I say, I think the next game is going to be a shooting game. So I'm going to I'm going to throw this game. I'm going to put in a sports player and a fighting player, right? The game goes, you win because your best shooters are in. Next game spins and it's a shooter. Okay? Because it spins randomly. You don't know what the next one is. It's a shooter. You can't play those 2 people you just played.
Okay, so now we're getting into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of strategy here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A whole lot.
Yeah.
So because you can't play those 2 now, you're at a disadvantage. And I planned it right because I knew that, or I thought that this would happen. So sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't matter. Anyways, so now I get to put my 2 in. Now you have to pick from the other 5 that you have. But what I don't know is, of those 5, how many of them have been practicing shooting games. So maybe you do have another roster of 2 shooters or 5 shooters or whatever that can absolutely dominate.
And does each captain or coach of each team have the statistics of the generic game skill test that all your 100,000 person community has to take at the beginning?
Every coach has every game that every player has ever played.
How is that possible?
A lot of statistics.
Yeah.
Jesse, shout out Jesse.
So, I mean, okay, so 2 players, you have 4 players, 2 teams of 2 playing Call of Duty against each other. So when does that game end?
So it's every game we try to get between 5 and 10 minutes. So it's a 5 to 10 minute match. Right.
It's just whoever dies first?
So in Call of Duty specifically, it's who has the most points at the end.
Okay.
So whoever has the most points at the end of that 5 to 10 minute timer or whatever it is wins. And now we go to the next game.
That's super quick.
Super quick.
And what about, and for the sports games, I guess do you play one game or do you play a tournament?
Nope. One match, super quick. Again, 5 to 10 minutes and it's done.
So you don't even play so if you were playing like NBA basketball, you wouldn't even play like the full 48 minutes.
No. In Madden, we do 2-minute quarters on accelerated clock.
Oh my God, that's that's a lot of pressure.
It's super quick. And it's like anyone can lose if they haven't planned it out right. So we have a lot of pros that join our league. And
what's a pro?
Like a pro gamer outside. So they're like they think they're the best of the best. They come in and we have like players that come in and where they come from, they're it, right? They've won world championships in this game. So they're thinking, I'm going to come in, I'm going to smoke them because they come in and they play their game and they lose in their game because it's a different ball game. Now you're not playing just that single game over and over and over. Then you go into a match and you play that same game.
Because you're playing the skill set.
You're instead playing a different pattern of games. So this game had triangle as a punch button. This game has square. This game has, you're playing, circle as a shooting button. This game is so now you're bouncing from thing to thing. By the time you get to your game, you're now having to remember 100,000 combos that before it was the only thing you were doing. So it was easy to recall. But now you're having to remember these other things at the same time as remembering those things, right?
Oh, okay. So what platform are all these games on?
Everything. We play every platform. So you have to be good at it all. So there's some games that are on PC, some that are on Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, all of it.
So all these 100,000 people in your community that are trying out for these 12 teams, 18 players a team, they all have to have all of these consoles and all of these games.
They have to. So the tryout can be on anything. So the system that we have for tryouts, you can do it on mobile, you can do it on PC, console. So you can try out on anything. It's just once you get into the league, we open up our arena too, so you can come in any day and practice. But once you get into the league, yeah, your team owner is going to want to get you a PC. We have PC sponsorships. So so Surf Thing is our PC sponsor. Shout out to them. Yes. But yeah, so they'll get a PC as well and consoles and stuff like that. So
you've built an entire world.
Yeah, gaming world.
You're a world builder.
I always consider myself to be the leader of an industry.
But you created the industry.
Exactly.
Because it wasn't there wasn't anything like this before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what? So apart from you and you're focusing on the multi-skilled approach and not focusing on like one game, what are all these other competitions out there that are just focused on one game? Are they kind of like fly by night, like they'll make a big splash for a year or two and then disappear when the marketing and the advertising is gone, and then because they don't have the community and they're not skill based, right? They're game based.
Yep. So
do they not have the staying power? Is that why you've created what you've created the way you created it?
Yeah. They're right now they're dying a lot. And the biggest ones that you thought would never die are dying. FaZe at one point, FaZe Clan, which is like one of the biggest, they were valued at $1.3 billion. They just sold for $12 million in a stock transfer. So not even cash.
Wow.
So like, but those leagues only live while the game does, because it's much harder to transition to a new game from the game you're playing when that game dies. If you think the game's never going to die, then maybe you're good. Maybe you'll last forever. But if eventually that game dies, you're screwed.
How does a game die? Like they don't update it anymore?
People just stop playing it. And then once they stop playing it, it's over. You know, a game can be as popular today and not popular at all tomorrow. The average lifespan of a game is a year. Last year it was a year. This year it's already at, I think, 6 months, 5 months, average lifespan of a game before it's completely dead. Nobody's playing it anymore.
That's wild. I have a friend of mine, actually, this just came to me. One of my friends I went to school with, he is he codes, or he's working with EA Sports on Tony Hawk or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my only contribution to this conversation.
We had Tony Hawk on last season, actually. We had Tony Hawk on the wheel.
I remember for some reason that was a game that I've played recently, but I don't remember. I think I went to dinner at a friend's house and he had some kids.
Yeah.
And I was playing Tony Hawk.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
That was one of those games that we played as a kid. That was just, amazing.
I mean, yeah, Tony Hawk's like older than me. He was a legend back in the day. But so, and then for like a Tony Hawk game, it would be you play for 10 minutes and the most amount of tricks and the most amount of points.
Yeah, most points. 2 minutes.
2 minutes and you're in or out.
Yeah. And we had people that were scoring 4 million points in 2 minutes. Nuts, bro. It was like, who would have thought that this could happen?
Yeah.
But they're like with no cheats, they were just that good at that. And they just learned how to play. They literally just picked it up because they weren't playing it before they joined the league, right? So, but that's how good our community is at gaming. I mean, we've played world championship teams where they try and put together a super team of people that have won. At one of the teams we played, they had 17 world championships across 4 different games. World championships, right? They put together this super team and we destroyed them. There was no chance. They had 0 chance against us.
Because your formatting is different.
We're just better.
Yeah.
Like, we're better at gaming. So it's like you can do these one things, you can do this combo, but it doesn't matter when you have to get to the next game.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, because I guess like a lot of the other gaming competitions, everyone goes deep on one game, whereas you're going shallow, but the skill level is what's being judged.
Yeah, it's like UFC a boxer getting in the cage with a UFC person, right? Sure, a UFC person gets in the boxing ring and they're going to have a hard time. They might be able to compete, but they're probably not going to win because they don't know all the stuff. You're not getting in a cage with a cage fighter, period, as a boxer, right? It's not going to happen.
Any comments on the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight coming up?
No comment. I honestly, I haven't watched any of that like in so long. I haven't watched any sports.
I can't watch people hit each other.
Yeah.
So I can't watch any of this UFC stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch the Tyson fight. But I have seen videos of Tyson training.
Oh,
it's
scary.
terrifying.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has that insane look in his eyes, man. I wouldn't go anywhere near that.
Yeah. He is a killer. Like, that guy is scary.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, that was a nice aside.
Yeah.
Okay. So where are you now in your 6-month cycle of the current season? Where are you at the moment?
So we're having the final game of the regular season happens this weekend on Friday at 6 p.m.
in Virginia.
In Virginia at the arena, and then playoffs start in May. So we'll have all throughout. So we have All-Star Weekend next week. Next week. All-Star Week is next week. So we have like.
Is there a dunk contest?
rookies versus sophomore. So all the rookies play the sophomore players. There's the conference all-stars, and then pros versus staff. So I'll play in the game on Sunday. And then me. The game is always like me, 300, Polo, who's our chief production officer, and so like we all come together and the executives play against pro gamers, and we see how we fare.
And how have those gone traditionally?
Not great.
No,
not great.
okay.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and they like beating up on us. And then we have an award show on Saturday. But then the finals happens June 8th, and then next season starts.
Okay. And what do the playoffs look like? So you have 12 teams, 18 players a team. Who qualifies for the playoffs, and how long does that last?
It's 8 teams that qualify. You have a wild card that can try and play in, depending on like ties and stuff like that. This playoffs will last about a month. And that was only, we had to basically drag out this one because the DeVos Theater only had availability on, I think it was like June 8th and the weekend after. So in order to book that venue, we needed to push it out a little bit.
When are you going to buy your own venue?
We have one now.
Okay.
Yeah, that arena we have now, but we're going to get a bigger one soon.
Okay.
Very soon. We have a space that we're spotting.
With your history in property development, I'm sure that'll go fine.
Yeah, exactly. So I was talking to I was talking to Pete, my chief technology officer. He was like, "Hey, I have a great realtor." I was like, "Oh, do you?"
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, wait, I forgot. Yeah, my bad."
So this is, in order for this community to work, and in order for people to have trust in what you're building,
Yeah.
that initial skills test that everyone has to take, which then allows the coaches or the team captains to make their selections in the draft, that everyone has to believe that test at the very beginning is the shit.
Yes.
How have you crafted that test? How do you update it? How do you keep it relevant? How did you even come up with the idea?
Yeah. Came up with the idea when I started. We actually hired a doctor from the Space Force, and she does performance training, where she basically, her name's Elise. Shout out Elise. Sorry, I'm gonna keep doing that.
That's your camera right there. Go for it. Yeah.
But basically, she does performance training with pro athletes, and so she's switching over and she wants to do more cognitive. And so she found us and applied, and it's been great. But she takes basically has like broken down every genre and then really tied it to the skills in that genre, from like a shooting game having, spatial awareness and hand-eye coordination and, movement tracking, that type of stuff, precision. All genres have very specific skills, and she's broken those down to a point where like if you can't deny it. Like it's like, yeah, okay, that's obvious. Even though nobody's said it before, it hasn't been said, it's definitely true.
Because what you've done is you've created an essay, you've created a standardized test for gaming.
Yes.
And in order for that to work, I mean, first of all, just the fact that you've done that is spectacular.
Thank you.
Yeah. Very impressive. But in order for that to work as the entry point into your world, everyone has to believe that that's the fucking test of all tests.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way, essentially, it's like for fighting games, we have a memorization game. It's just memory. That's it, right? Like you're just like flipping cards, and it gets harder and harder and harder and bigger and bigger and bigger until you have to remember the pattern of the cards.
Whoever does well on that, let me know. We're going to Vegas. We're going to Rain Man it up, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, actually, fighting games translate really well to stock trading and gambling.
Yeah.
Very well.
Let me drop a box of toothpicks.
Yeah.
That's amazing. This is wild. I've never heard of anything like this before.
Yeah. Me neither.
That's why you built it. Yeah. I mean, how do you see the expansion of this? Because again, too, like, you haven't built like a gaming community. You've built like a community.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
You can market anything to these people now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the key, right?
Well, that's the rub too. I mean, because if you start fucking around and giving them shit that they don't want to see, you're done, right? You lose your credibility. So if you start offering them all like Viagra, you're gonna run into some problems. So how do you make sure that you're still building trust with these people and still monetizing what you show them?
So we've had so many partnership offers from the normal gaming brand companies like the Red Bulls, the Monster, the like tons of energy drinks, and like it's like gamers automatically get unhealthy stuff pushed in front of them, like Doritos and all that stuff like that. We haven't taken any of that.
What are kind of, can you just name me like 10 like traditional
Unhealthy,
like products that the gaming community already gets targeted for? Because I'm not familiar.
Yeah. Red Bull is a big one.
Red Bull's for everything though.
Yeah, but they're big in game. Monsters, same, like really big in gaming. So we'll just do by genre, basically energy drinks. Most gaming chair companies actually create chairs that aren't actually good for you. That's like the position you're sitting in.
I've seen those games. Some of them like vibrate and stuff like that.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. But it's not actually a healthy way of sitting. So it's not actually good for you. Then you have, like you said, Adderall and the performance like enhancement type stuff. You have Doritos, any unhealthy food, snacks. Like whenever you see a commercial for like a gamer snack, it's always something extremely unhealthy.
Yeah, because
right?
they're playing and they're eating at the same
exactly.
time.
And that's how people see gamers. But gamers, like I said before, aren't that. It's 2 out of 3 households. That means like me and him are gamers. You may not be, right?
Yeah.
That's how that works, right?
I've been the odd one out forever.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad for me.
No, but like that, a normal person, a normal human is a gamer too. So you can really market things that you wouldn't think to. So the point is, we actually find healthy alternatives and market that instead, because we do care about our players. Our whole motto is player first, right? Because it's community first. We have to care about them, right? So when we found an energy drink, it was Sly. Sly is all healthy, all plant-based, and it's not actually an energy drink. It's a health drink, but it was made by eye doctors that, this isn't a sponsored thing, but hey, shout out Sly. But yeah, like it's good. It's actually good for your eyes when you drink this stuff, right? And they have something for if you're sleepy, if you're trying to, get focused or whatever. But it's all healthy alternatives. Like you can still get energy from it if you want the energy one. You can go to sleep if you want the sleepy one. Then we have a chair that actually positions your back perfectly, right? It's more expensive, but it's actually healthy. And if you have an healthy alternative that you maybe pay a little bit more for, then a lot of gamers will do that, right?
And you create all these marketing contracts, opportunities, and stuff like that with your team that you work with.
Yes.
And are you just being bombarded by potential sponsorships?
No, not yet, but we will be. We know that, but not yet. No, and we're very picky about it too. So when I say no to the normal person, probably yes, but for me, no. I mean, I kind of disregard it. Our chief marketing officer came from Candy Crush. So he's really good with that kind of stuff. Like he knows what's fluff and what's actually going to work. So he handles a lot of that now. But yeah, I mean, what we try to do is find things that will actually be good for our community if we're going to put it in front of our community.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. When it's a league-specific sponsorship, we take a very deep look into it. When it's like teams, they can take sponsorships for all kinds of stuff. Events like we have a big event in Chicago coming up with Chicago schools. Those type of things will take sponsors that we normally wouldn't take for the league itself. Because that's our community. We have to nurture that a little bit differently.
Right, yeah, and build that trust.
Yep.
This is wild. Okay. If I want to buy the 13th team in your league, how much does it cost?
The last team we sold we don't have a price right now.
You're selling franchises.
Yeah. So the last team we sold, and it is a franchise contract too. $250,000 is the last team we sold.
Okay. And how long does that contract last?
It's every 2 years you renew it, for about half of what you paid originally.
And they can sell it at any time?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you can borrow against that. Like, I wonder if you can leverage against the ownership of that. You will be able to soon.
I mean, so like I said, the first teams we sold for $6,000. 6 months ago, you could have bought a team for $100,000.
Okay.
So
it's growing.
Yeah.
What what happens when your community hits like 10 million people?
Jeez.
You won't be sitting here talking to me.
No, I still will, because you brought me here now. Yeah, I'll be right back here.
Joe Rogan and Howard Stern only.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Now I'm a loyal guy, so I'll be back here.
That's good. I appreciate that. But this is like, again, like what you've built is, it has its roots in gaming, but you've built like an entire ecosystem that is way beyond what anyone else has ever built on this space.
Yeah. That's been the goal. We weren't originally thinking of ourselves as a marketing group, but we really are. We see that now.
And I mean, when you decided to build this ecosystem, this world, this community, like, did you get a bank loan? Do you have an investor? Did you just build it all out of your own money organically?
That's a crazy story. So I'll do the short version. We had a team of 6 originally. We had 2 investors. So essentially the 2 of the team of 6 decided to leave kind of last minute. We had just signed the lease. They leave. We then have to pivot. We find a new location. Then the investors decided they wanted to leave too. So then it becomes just me and my wife, and which isn't what we signed up for, but it was like, I mean, I wasn't stopping. So I was like, I'm just going to keep pushing. The investors then, sued us for their money back. We ended up giving them their money back. Not because of the suit, because we actually had the right to keep it, but I just was like, you know what? I don't want it. Here, you take it back if you give me the equity back. So fast forward, we built it with my cash, with my money that I had made over the years, the money I was continuing to make. I've since I stopped real estate July of 2022, so about 2 years ago.
Okay.
I've been doing this full time since then. So
you're beholden to no one.
Nobody.
I mean, so as you try to expand and as you try to grow, do you think you'll take on outside investment, or do you have like a corporate banking relationship? Like, are loans or debt, or
no debt,
nothing? No, but do you think that might be like an option?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm very financially savvy, being that I came from the.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how do you? I mean, like, because you could in a couple of years you might be big enough to list on a stock exchange. Like, you could be a public list. Yeah,
that's the goal. Yeah, 3 years. So
but you're gonna need some outside investment, or you're gonna need to raise some money. It might be
like
debt.
$5 million to go public now.
In revenue?
Yeah. No. Like, you have to have $5 million. That's what it costs to go public.
Yeah, but you also have to check with the stock exchanges, because they'll have various, each one.
Yes, depending on which one you go on. Yeah. But you can do like pink slip, if you really want to go public that bad, you could. But anyways, so 3 years is the goal, to go public in 3 years. But yeah, so we're going to take on outside investment. We had a round that's going to close soon here. We're then going to take out. We're going to start a relationship too, take out a loan.
Yeah.
Around that same time, leveraging the cash that we have, and then we're going to push like crazy. Like, we are going to we're going to put millions of dollars into advertising, make sure everyone knows of us. Everyone has heard of us. Everyone sees us. We're in the public eye. We're the #1 U.S. tournament in the world. And so we want to be able to promote that and push that to the gamers and let them know, like, we see you. The normal gamer, the average gamer, hey, we see you. Whereas these other gaming companies don't. They keep pushing the same thing on you. We're not. We see you. We know you enjoy gaming as a whole, not necessarily a particular game. We know you play 24 games a year, not one. And we see you. And then bring as many people from that community as we can. And I think 10 million's low.
Yeah, so you're essentially marketing to get your free customers to sign up and to do your standardized test.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then they become part of your ecosystem.
Yep.
And then they become part of the pool that can be drafted into the 12 teams.
Exactly. And then long term, we become the owners of the games as well. So how does that work?
How does that work?
So let's say we find a game from a little known developer, indie, but it's an amazing game. We know it's amazing. We know the public will love it if it just gets a chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
We then go to that developer and we say, we want 5% equity and 60% of the revenue between this time that we're doing this, right? Mm-hmm. So now that company that would have had no sales is going to have these guaranteed sales from us. We then own that game as well as a percentage of the revenue while it's on the wheel,
mm-hmm.
right? So then we do that multiple times until we get to the point where we own the games too.
Because that's the true power. But then you don't want to be in game development, but you definitely want to have an equity stake in the games.
Yep. Just a minor equity stake.
So each season you have 33 games. Are you dealing with 33 different gaming companies, or do some companies have 2 or 3 games in that pool?
Yeah, so right now it's 33 different, but sometimes it'll be multiple games in a pool. So there's a lot of publishers that'll have 8 to 10 games that they want to put on the wheel. They don't necessarily all work, but yeah, there's...
Because obviously, by keeping 33 games in the stable for a season and having 33 different companies, it makes certain that none of those companies will ever have any control or power over what you're doing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have backups too. So we even have a backup wheel. So like we'll have games that are ready in case this game fails or in case this game decides to pull or whatever, so that the players know, hey, these games are also on reserve in case something happens with these ones.
Do you have to get the gaming companies' permission to use their games in this community, and is that hard to get? No. They all want to be in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And normally you have to pay to license the game.
Right, that's what I mean. Like normally, because I know gaming is like music. Like you have to license it in order, but people are basically giving you free music to put in front of your community.
They're paying me to put it in front.
Yeah.
I'm like Spotify instead of being like, I don't know, fan club.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not here for you. So if you want to be in front of my community, it's going to cost you.
Right. Yeah. That's the marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So, okay. Wow. So what does the rest of this year look like for you as we wind this down? You've fucking blown my mind at the moment. I'm going to have to have like a whiskey and put my feet up to recover from this.
Yeah, I see. No. So the rest of this,
everyone who comes on the podcast wants to talk about mental health and helping people and all this shit, and I'm just being blown away by entrepreneurial genius.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So this year is going to be huge. So we have the $1 million tournament for season 9. We're going to spend about $1 million in marketing and advertising. We have a lot of campaigns that we're going to be putting out for growing the league. We're also working with a lot of universities. So University of Kentucky is a big one that we're working with now to start their esports program. Oklahoma, Nebraska. So we're going to start like a collegiate side of this because think about it, a collegiate wheel can be separate from pro wheel.
Until the NCAA gets their hands on you.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Who gets their hands on who? So we have that side. Then we're working with high schools as well to kind of work their way up from the bottom there. And then this year, just a whole lot of marketing. We have our big event June 8th for the finals at the DeVos Theater. And then we'll probably, this year, most likely we'll head back to either the DeVos or they have a bigger arena that can seat like 20,000 people that we may be in. We're working with Capital One Arena too for the with Monumental. They own like NBC Sports and stuff like that and the Wizards. But they want us to do some events there. So there's a lot that we're kind of setting up for this year. We also have a huge, very excited about. So we have a partnership with a clinic that they do like probiotics. They have their own branding. They're actually they have a university side to them, so they can actually get approval for FDA approval for different stuff. So we're going to create a healthy plant-based like probiotic thing for gamers to like as like a, you take these and then help your gut health and help with this and help with that, like giving them healthy alternatives.
After the podcast, when we're off, remind me. I'll show you a few things. I've got a few things. I want to mention them because they're brands and stuff. But I'll show you a few things I got in the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we have like there's like it's like a sensor that goes where it'll like it's like rays or gamma. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but the doctor can tell you. But it's like rays that kind of like you put that on and then it like sends like good like signals and stuff like that can help you sleep, help you calm down. All good stuff for gamers, gamer glasses, and our players will get free acupuncture and massage therapy before and after games.
And that's good, yeah, because it's quite hard on the body, right?
Yes, yeah. So it's like we're flipping it on its head and saying we're gonna go gamer, but it's healthy. You know what I mean? Like we're going after what's good for the community instead of going for the easy stuff that we know we could get right now and we know they pay us money, who cares? Let's take care of our community first.
How old do you have to be to enter your community?
12 right now with parental permission. We do have a 12-year-old, and he's amazing. Yeah, he's really good.
Where are you on, where are you when people start talking about the health of gamers and people spending too much time gaming and too much screen time or not enough exercise, not being outdoors? Like, where does your firm and the message about that kind of potentially like gaming too much and unhealthy amounts of time, like where do you guys try to bridge that gap while still creating a vibrant community and having these wonderful competitions?
Yeah, our resident doctor Elise created a program where essentially when a part of our onboarding is speaking about that. What is your before the game? What is your after the game? What is your before practice? What is your after? How much sleep are you getting? And she's coaching them on life outside of the game, right? Because that's just as important as when you're in, and even more important, in order for you to perform at the highest level, which is her whole entire job, is to make sure you perform at the highest level. In order for that to happen, you have to take care of your mind and your body.
Just like any athlete.
Yes. Yeah. So we're all about that. I mean, in order to have longevity, which we are creating a longevity in gaming that doesn't exist right now. The retirement age for a gamer is like 22 years old. Like, it's like, that's not a career, right? Like that's not a career at all. So like, we're trying to create a longevity, and I believe we have that because essentially if you take care of yourself and you do all the right things, even if you get slower with the buttons, your strategy, and you're going to get better at other parts, other aspects of the game, right? Like, you may be more strategic about the game and how you play it because you're older and wiser. And so that's why we have older people, like I said, in their 40s that are still dominating. We have like Billy the GOAT is like one of the best players in the league. I think he's like 33.
Okay.
You couldn't even, at that age, normally you couldn't even game, right? So
you aged out at 33.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. At 33, at 22, they're retiring, man. Like, it's crazy. It's wild. It's like, that's not a career. It's not sustainable. So you're telling me we have kids. I'll never forget, like, our third season, we had a kid. He was like 16, and his whole dream was to be a Valorant pro gamer. And it was so sad. And I'm trying to tell him, like, by the time you get into college and out of the college and into the pros, like, Valorant's going to be dead. It's not going to exist anymore. And he couldn't see that. Like, he couldn't see past that. And so that was his goal. And then he gets into college, and Valorant's not a game anymore for that college. So it's like, but it's like, that shouldn't be how gaming, like, if you are training at something that hard, you should be able to train at it and be able to make it through the next 10 years. That's the only way you can really call it a sport or a game, right? Otherwise, or a sport. Otherwise, it's not a sport. You're playing video games. It's just a hobby. And if you're spending too much time on that hobby, you should go out and do something else, right? That's any hobby, whether it be basketball or whether it be reading. You could spend way too much time reading and not get stuff done, right?
Yeah, for sure. Of course.
Yeah. So anything can be unhealthy just as much as it is healthy. You could drink too much water, for God's sake. That's how it is. So it's like, gaming is no different than anything else. It's just seen different because a lot of people that aren't living in this virtual world, they don't understand the virtual world, and so they're afraid of the virtual world.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's a lot of parents that want their kids to go outside and play basketball. It's a lot of parents that want their kids to do their homework first. It's a lot of kids that want their kids to go out on the weekend and play tennis, but they're sitting at home gaming.
Yeah.
And these parents just don't understand the games, the gaming, the ecosystem, the communities. They just haven't put the time and the energy into it. They just see a kid sitting in a chair instead of being outside in the sun.
Yep.
And I think that's the biggest disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't recognize that kid is in a virtual world right now.
And potentially potentially salaried in the future, right? Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That some of your gamers can make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just getting started.
Just getting started.
Now you're going to make me, so I'm going to join your community.
Absolutely.
As a free member.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take your standardized test.
Yeah.
And please don't laugh when the number's back. Okay. But I need to get into this. I'm not a gamer, but I need to I need to get in and have a look from the inside.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, check it out.
Because this is like, I really think, I just think that this is, in many ways, you're building out some type of future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. That's what made it easy to continue forward. Like when things didn't look so good, it helped me like keep pushing because I saw that bigger picture. So everything else just seemed small. No matter how scary it was, it just seemed small in comparison to the bigger picture. It was always like, oh, I have to keep pushing because I have millions or billions depending on me, right? It's always how I've felt. I felt like this vision was given to me and now I have to make the most of it.
So I lived in Dubai for a few years.
Awesome. Just came back from Qatar. It's amazing.
Yeah, Qatar is interesting. But Saudi Arabia is really trying to become like a gaming stronghold. I mean, have you had any contact with them at all? Because they throw money around.
They've offered us quite a bit of money
already.
Yes. So
to buy you out?
No, I'm not selling. But yeah, to be able to do what we're doing.
Okay. Because I mean, eventually, like you might have, like you said, you might have something in Africa, might have something in Europe, you might have something in the GCC, the Middle East, but have it in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah. Specifically, Saudi right now is who we're communicating with through a partnership that we have with Jay-Z's company, Rock Nation.
Okay. So you don't just small groups of friends?
Yep.
Where are you on celebrity endorsements and having like teams of celebrities? Have you ever thought about that?
We have celebrities that own some of the teams, but we don't really push it. I was told something that I felt was a wise statement, that if you tie your carriage to the wrong horse, then it'll run you off the road or whatever.
Completely. Yeah.
So like, I think with all the stuff happening right now in the industry, it's best to like just build something real, not off of hype. And I was told that by Jay's cousin, Behi, who's one of my mentors, and so he was like, yeah, you don't need the clout, just keep building. Like,
because I mean, what if you build a 10-year relationship with someone like P. Diddy?
That's exactly what I was talking about when I didn't want to sing.
We have to bring it up.
Exactly, like. And now you are a part of that, right? And so it's the last thing you want, right? You just never know with that. So it's like, I'm building it off of me. I'm building it off of the community. And I know that I can trust me, and I know that I can trust the community. So.
Well, it's been amazing. Completely educational. I came in here knowing nothing.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming by and educating me. This has been really quite special.
No problem. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
You can follow us on UEL Esports everywhere. UELesports.com @UEL Esports. So.
Okay. I'll make sure I put a link when this goes out.
Awesome.
And now, just because we want to show everyone that we're actually in the same room and not on some fucking Zoom call. Where are we here? Oh, that camera died on me.
Oh, there's a mid camera?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, we can tell.
Anyways, we're in the same room down at
here. Look, it's over there.
There we go. Beautiful. Well, look, thank you so much for swinging by.
Yeah.
Great to catch up, and I wish you the best of luck.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Beautiful. And we're off.